What's one thing that you, me, and Snoop Dogg all have in common? We are all crazy about those dividends. That's right, my friends. Recently, I was listening to his new album, Back on Death Row, and in one of the tracks, Snoop refers to himself as a $160 million man who is all about the clout and all about his dividends. And upon hearing this, I thought, wait. Is Snoop Dogg a dividend stock investor? Now, obviously, guys, I can't say whether or not he is, but the idea is pretty dang cool. Anyway, then I got curious, and because I have too much time on my hands, I started to think, which stocks would I own if I was the DOGG and had a dividend stock portfolio, which brings me to the topic of today's video. We are going to run through 3 dividend stocks that I think we'd find inside the Dogfather's dividend stock portfolio, and then we'll take a look at how much income a portfolio comprised of these 3 could generate, as well as how it would have performed overall across the last 10 years with $1 million invested into each of the 3 stocks. The results are actually pretty incredible. It was a lot higher than I was anticipating. So that's what we have coming up first, and then later on in this video, we'll get into a weekly portfolio update where I'll show you what's been going on in my neck of the woods, and we'll talk about how my stocks performed in the last week as well as any purchases that were made. Anyway, before we get rocking and rolling, if you guys think Snoop Dogg is actually invested in some dividend stocks, then go ahead and give this video a big thumbs up. Also, I'd love to hear from you guys. Leave me a comment below and let me know which stocks you picked up this week. Anyway, thank you so much for doing that. And now, without further ado, let's get into it. All right, my friends, now kicking things off, I would be very surprised if we didn't find Snoop Dogg invested in some PEP, Pepsi. I mean, for goodness sakes, he was just on stage for the Pepsi halftime show at the Super Bowl, and Snoop Dogg seems like the kind of guy who does his due diligence. Assuming he is, then he would know that Pepsi has a solid lineup of beverages, including Mountain Dew, Gatorade, Aquafina, Life Water, and Tropicana, which, as I'm sure you can imagine, is an essential ingredient in one of Snoop's signature cocktails. In addition to all of this, Pepsi is just one of those brands that doesn't seem like it will ever go out of style, which is an essential component when considering it as a long-term investment to pay you cash flow over a long period of time, which brings us to the next point. What is Pepsi's dividend looking like? So as you guys can see here on the screen, Pepsi has a forward dividend yield of 2.59%, a payout ratio that's kind of on the higher end, 67.96%, a 5-year growth rate that's actually not too shabby, 7.5%, and a very respectable dividend growth history of 49 years, according to Seeking Alpha right here. But actually, Pepsi just recently announced their 50th annual dividend raise, which puts them at Dividend King status, making it, I believe, a perfect fit for the King of the West Coast's dividend stock portfolio. All right, now moving on, the second stock I think we'd find in Snoop Dogg's dividend stock portfolio is Scotts Miracle-Gro, ticker symbol SMG. And if you know anything about Snoop Dogg, I'm sure you can understand why. The Dogfather is somewhat of a green thumb, and because of this, I think SMG is a company that he can get on board with, making it another great fit for his dividend stock portfolio. Now, getting into this company's dividend, Scotts Miracle-Gro has a forward dividend yield of 1.84%, which is on the lower end, but this is not so much of a surprise to see, considering the payout ratio is also very low, 32.32%, which means that they are hopefully likely able to continue growing it well into the future. Now, moving on to their 5-year growth rate, this I believe is somewhat decent, 5.7% for the 5-year dividend CAGR, and then they have a pretty nice dividend growth history of 12 consecutive years, not too bad. All right, now moving on to stock number 3, Snoop Dogg is a pretty big gamer, and you can actually find him streaming on Twitch somewhat regularly. At one point, he even had an Xbox Series X refrigerator delivered to him, and because Snoop loves his video games, there is no doubt in my mind that he would be invested in Microsoft, and I bet he would have bought early too, like right after the original Xbox came out in 2001 when Microsoft was under like $30 per share. That would seriously be so insane. And honestly, guys, if I could go back in time, that is a move that I would most definitely make on my way back to the present because Microsoft is just crushing it. I mean, as you can see, in the last 10 years, they're up almost 900% and have a pretty solid dividend growth rate and dividend growth history despite a pretty low starting yield, which comes as a result of the share price growth outpacing the dividend growth just by so much. All right, guys, now switching gears, we are going to take the 3 stocks we just talked about, put them in a little sample portfolio, and then put it through a back test, which essentially will compile all of the share price performance for these 3 stocks and show us how this portfolio would have performed. We're going to set the time period for the last 10 years, so from 2012 until now, year to date. And as you can see here, we have this already pulled up, all configured, ready to go, and the initial amount starting out is going to be $3 million, which accounts for basically $1 million invested into each of the 3 stocks. And I'll tell you what, the reason I chose $1 million as the initial investment, which I understand is abnormally high, is because I do believe the Dogfather is balling like that. And I think back in 2012, this is how he would have approached it. I think he would have come in guns blazing and said, I'm going to drop $1 million into each of these three stocks and let them do their thing. So that's what's going on there. And then scrolling down, guys, as you can see, we have Pepsi in here, we have Scotts Miracle-Gro, and we have Microsoft. And as we scroll down and check out the results, we'll actually even compare it to the performance of the S&P 500 across the last 10 years. So scrolling down, guys, taking a look at the results of this portfolio in the last 10 years with the initial balance of $3 million, the final balance actually comes out to over $21 million for Snoop Dogg just from investing in these three stocks across the last 10 years. And as you can see here, this is nearly double what the S&P would have done. The S&P, if you would have just put the same amount of money into that, would result in about $13 million for the final balance, which, you know, is considerably less than this $21 million that Snoop Dogg now has from investing in these three stocks. And moving on, guys, from these three stocks, obviously there was a huge amount of capital appreciation, but scrolling down, we'll find out that there was a pretty substantial amount of dividends generated from this little portfolio in the last 10 years as well. So scrolling down, you can see it really takes off, and pretty much year over year across the last 10 years, it grows pretty substantially. So just in the first year with that initial $3 million investment, it would have generated just over $90,000 of annual dividend income. And then zooming forward all the way to 2021, that would have tripled. And just in 2021, this portfolio would have generated just over $300,000 in annual dividend income. But looking back 1 year, and I don't know exactly why it's so much higher in 2020, but in the year 2020, this portfolio would have generated nearly $470,000 of annual dividend income. So as you guys can see, pretty much all across the board, both in terms of share price performance and dividends received, Snoop Dogg would have fared pretty well with this little sample portfolio right here. But I'll tell you what, this is not just limited to Snoop Dogg. The great thing about dividend investing is anyone can buy into these three companies. Now, maybe not starting out with, $3 million invested initially, but the point is anyone can take this same approach and generate passive income through dividend stocks, which is one of the reasons I love this style of investing so much. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on the matter. Now moving on, let's get into the weekly portfolio update. As you guys can see here, my portfolio's current market value is $33,736.84, which is actually a couple $100 less than last week when we did a portfolio update, and has resulted in a loss of unrealized gain of about 1.1% basically in the last 7 days. Throughout most of the week, guys, I was pretty dang even. I had some good days, I had some bad days, but today, as I'm filming, which is Friday, February 18th, my portfolio is taking a hit. So most of the losses for the week have come just today. And I'll tell you guys what, I'm pretty sure a big chunk of those losses came from Intel, INTC, which as you can see is down today over 6%, 6.3% just today. So I've lost quite a bit of money on Intel today. But anyway, going back to the dashboard, guys, as far as annual dividend income, we are now sitting at $1,611.23 of annual dividend income, which is a gain of about $5 compared to last week. And actually, if we looked at my portfolio on Charles Schwab within the app, it would show an annual dividend income of about $1,625 or so. And I don't know why there's such a discrepancy between what Charles Schwab is showing for the dividend income compared to this spreadsheet, but either way, guys, we are somewhere between $1,600 and $1,625. So I'm pretty stoked about that. And now jumping over to M1 Finance, guys, just showing you what's been going on in the Roth IRA. This week, we are down over 1% in this portfolio, so this bad boy took a little bit of a hit as well, but it's all good, guys. Next week, we could bounce back, or we may even drop a little bit more. Both are fine with me. Either way, I am contributing every single week to this portfolio and to my Charles Schwab portfolio right here, guys, which brings me to the next point. I want to share with you my recent purchases for the week. So as you can see on the screen, I picked up 3 different stocks this week, the first of which was Snap-on. I invested $50 into Snap-on and got just under a quarter of a share. Second, I invested $50 into 3M and picked up a third of a share of that. And then lastly, I put $50 into Starbucks and got about half a share of Starbucks. And then I also put $50 into the Roth and spread that across the 5 different ETFs that are in there. But overall, this week, just like last week, guys, as far as purchases and sales, was a pretty uneventful week with my total contributions totaling $200 exactly. As far as next week goes, guys, I'll definitely be picking up some more Snap-on. That's been a staple purchase for me every single week for the last couple months now. I'm also considering considering picking up some more Intel and starting to contribute to that company a little bit more regularly again, because it's just come down so much in share price, especially today. A 6% drop is just unreal. And as far as the third stock I'll pick up, I'm not exactly sure which one that's going to be, but there's a good chance it could be Starbucks. I could possibly buy some more 3M again as well. I would say those are probably the top two contenders, but we'll just have to see what next week in the market brings. Anyway, enough about me. What do you guys plan to buy next week? I would be very curious to hear which stocks you all have your eye on. Also, if you enjoyed this video and have not done so already, please don't forget to leave a like, leave a thumbs up before you click on to the next video. And with that said, guys, I will now get out of your hair. But thank you once again so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you in the next one.